Welcome back to the channel, everyone. We got an update on the Falcon. If you haven't followed the channel, hit that subscribe button and go back and look at the Falcon playlist. There's tons of Ford Falcon content on the playlist, as well as small block 351 Windsor 408 and 430 content. Here you can see the Detroit Speed aluminum frame, and you can see the cradle there, as well as the lower control arm and the steering knuckle, or what they call the upright or the spindle. This kit utilizes a C5 or C6 Corvette spindle. One thing I'll say that I've learned about suspension kits just from using previous kits and doing some research on things is whenever there's a lot of companies, that make suspension kits for early Fords. You have, at least a dozen or so that I can think of that actually makes the kits. But when it comes to putting together a suspension kit, you just can't arbitrarily weld tubing together for your upper and lower control arms. There has to be a strategy in terms of like the angle, the geometry. I just throw it out there for you guys who are looking to get a suspension kit for your early Fords. Do your research and just remember that you get what you pay for. And I hope that you guys, take this for what it's worth. So hopefully what I am sharing with you guys helps you guys save a little. So looking forward, you see the lower control arm. You also see the strut, and that's pretty straightforward. The Detroit Speed system features JRI strut. It's basically Detroit Speed tuned valving. This is a single adjustable kit. They also have non-adjustable, single, double, and a remote mount strut for those who are interested in that. So when we talk about suspension geometry, it's really simple, to look. So you see the top of this strut is really at the top of the frame rail. But if you think about where a strut would be, even on an aftermarket system that utilizes the shock towers. Well, so if you know how the Ford systems are, this strut, the bottom of this strut would probably be at the top of where this strut is. So that gives you an idea of, and not only that, but the shock tower is inboard, like within the firewall. So this completely moves the strut not only outside the firewall, but down lower, probably at least a foot. More lends to where is the suspension, where are your points of leverage, because at the end of the day, suspension is more or less leveraging, and it's mechanical energy, if you will. So in my opinion, it's a night and day difference when you're talking about where a suspension system is mounted from. Understanding how my car was from stock when it had had the original Ford suspension or Chris Austin coilover conversion kit, and then to the Detroit Speed. You either utilize the shock towers or you don't. A popular application is what they call a Mustang 2. Mustang 2 more or less just means everything's down low and you don't have your strut within the tower. So here you can see the cradle. This cradle is more like a C5 or a C6 or even C7 Corvette. The Ford Falcon for 66 through 69, also the third gens, has a fixed front subframe that goes in front of the motor. That thing weighs, I don't know, it weighs more than this whole aluminum cradle combined. So that is gone, the shock towers are gone, and now you have this boxed in cradle that literally grabs the frame rails from the forward end and aft, and it really kind of ties it together. There you can see from the wheel well, you have to remove the fenders, to do this, the front fenders. But you can see the wheel well doesn't come with a, you have to order separately the shock tower delete panels. So you can see the panel, it really, fills where that shock tower is. It is structural. That gap all the way down to where the upper, where the strut would mount. And you can see it leaves a little bit of gap. So if you have to get in there and do some servicing, there's room to do so. But really a clean kit. And this kit is for a 64 to 70 Mustang. This car is a 68 Falcon. The only thing that really had to be modified to change the suspension kit to work for the Falcon was really the width of the frame rails. I believe, if I recall, I know I measured my car 68 Falcon against a 67 Mustang, and inboard and outboard, the frame rails of my Falcon were about an inch wider than a 67 Mustang. A brand new set of spare frame rails, which basically gave the curvature of the frame rails, because on the Falcon and Mustang is a little bit different. If you look at the Detroit Speed aluminum frame, the cradle actually has a curve as you go towards the firewall side of the car. So it's not a completely flat square or rectangle piece. As you go towards the back side, it starts to curve to follow the frame rail of the Mustang. The Falcon was a little bit different, so I was able to get a set of spare frame rails. So shout out to Dow Brothers and his team for supplying those. And here's a good illustration of the backside, how as the cradle goes towards the rear of the frame before it actually goes into the unibody, that piece curves, that part of the frame curves. So that's where we had to get the Mustang frame rails to mock up the curvature to make it work for the Falcon. Another trick thing about this thing is that it has an integrated anti-roll bar. You can see it's splined into the cradle. Now here's a really good look when I say the system is sandwiched to the frame rails. Now there you can see the frame rails, and on the lower part you see the cradle. The upper part you see that's where the upper part of the strut mounts, and you can see that how it sandwiches the frame rails. Really trick system. It takes the frame rails that the car has, and it basically uses them in a way that makes it stronger. Kyle Tucker founded Detroit Speed. He was a former GM engineer for the Corvette program a while back, and he broke off and started his own company. And so him and Mark Stilo from back in the days, late 90s, early 2000s, have been doing pro touring stuff with early Fords and GM for a long time now, and it really shows. You know, the cool thing about this is the motor mounts with this, you don't have to change anything else. Now that we have the shock towers eliminated, I can go with a Coyote, a big block Ford, an LS, small block Chevy, or big block Chevy. So now all I have to do is swap motor mounts for that cradle, and I can literally put in any engine family I want. There it is, guys. Detroit Speed also, what they do is they serialize all their parts. They are all serviceable. They will rebuild them and send them back out to you. You gotta appreciate that. Also, here's a picture of my new front brake system. I safety wired the hub and the hat. What this is a Willwood front brake kit. It's a 6-piston caliper. It's the super light kit. Part number on that is 140-8922. Again, this is a 14-inch rotor, 6-piston caliper. Hopefully it fits inside the 18-inch Rocket Racing wheels. We will see shortly. You can see I had safety wire pliers and safety wire. This is 32,000 stainless steel safety wire. And yeah, shout out to CSM Racing Engine for letting me borrow his safety wire pliers. Definitely can't wait to get this on. I've talked to a couple guys who are running this particular kit, and they said it pretty much slams you forward in the car. So again, thank you guys for watching. Thanks for supporting the channel. I will continue to update you guys.